For another episode of Bits, Bytes and Banter. And we have our favorite three-letter acronym as part of this title, which is WTF. And in case you're wondering, it's What's the Future? I'm joined today by Paddy Ryan and Cian McGrath, the two most Irish named guests I think you could possibly have. But they're going to join me today, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about the term digital twins. So you're very welcome, Cian. Thank you so much for joining us. You look very relaxed there.
Yeah, thanks very much, Gary. Yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a break in the office.
Well, we won't be saying that to Seamus and Shane, etc. But anyway, where are you and what's your relationship with this wonderful world called a digital twin?
Right, I suppose a bit of intro for me then. I'm in Tate, and Tate is a part of Kingspan Group that is just focused on the white space fit out in data centers. So we're supplying structural ceilings, raised access floors, hot oil containment systems, and mesh walls. Digital twins, like whatever I'm saying here now, I suppose Paddy's going to correct me. So I'm glad you actually let me go first, I suppose. To me, like there's two sides to digital twins. There's the BIM side, which we get heavily involved in when we're supporting our clients at the moment. Like, so you get in all the design coordination with contractors and owners and general contractors. You kind of go into that very deeply. But the other side of digital twin is facility management. So when you have the building, you have a digital representation model of that building that is just a data-rich model that tells you every little bit of information about the building. So a good example of that is the Kingspan Innovation Centre in Kings Court in Cavan called the Icon. I think it'd be well worth doing a trip up there at some point, maybe with Hosted Ireland. But just the building is absolutely riddled with sensors that just are analysing everything, like power in, power out, water in and out of the building, air quality, everything. And it's all been analysed the whole time. So it was all put together by a Kingspan partner called Invocara, and they use a platform called twinit.io to kind of pull out, kind of harvest all that data. And there's tons of data, and it all needs to be processed and used efficiently. So, it's checking all the time if the heating and cooling are on at the same time and kind of optimizing that. So you're improving the efficiency as well of the whole building all the time.
So effectively, what you said there is during the design and planning of what became a smart building, I guess that's the general term, there was a digital twin created that tried to represent all permutations and combinations as distinct to what previously, what would have happened or had to have happened previously to get to that information base.
Yeah, good question. I'm probably not the right guy to ask, but I mean, I suppose the side I'm really focusing on is the kind of the evolution of what was traditional BMS, like the building management system.
Okay.
That was there, so now it's a smarter system. You got all these IoT devices all over the building. And
exactly, yeah. So Paddy, you went to college only less than a decade ago, and I'm sure you were taught about all sorts of models and rivets and all this wonderful stuff. So when you come out into the real world, was it just an evolution? Was the term digital twin just an evolution of a lot of the other terms, or what do you, in your opinion, say a digital twin is? Because it's sort of taken over a bit and people are using it for everything from a kitchen sink to a smart building. What is it in your world?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved from probably other industries. It's a relatively new term, digital twin, in our industry for sure, and it's probably evolved from other terminology such as BIM. From times before us, BIM has probably been used too much that it comes with maybe a negative word now, or seen as a negative word. So maybe we're trying a new word with digital twin and see how we get. I think a digital twin in very basic terms is just a virtual copy of something in the virtual world. Could be a model, could be an object, could even be a system. And look, when you peel it all back, we could get into detail and talk about construction and models and technical detail, but when you try and explain this to customers and clients in a very layman's terms, I tend to use very high level analogies, and I tend to rely on other industries also to kind of explain it and what it is. And to start with maybe another industry, the one I typically use. Do you ever watch Drive to Survive, Formula One? Do you follow Formula One at all, Gary?
It's all a bit of it, yeah.
So you see other industries like sports, like they rely completely on digital twins. They have their entire car and model fully digitalized in the virtual world, and they run scenarios to allow them to win the race, when they should change their tires, when they should pit, what the weather is like, and it's fully connected. And that's when you see it working in other worlds like sports, you kind of wonder why it's not taken up as promptly and quickly as it is there in construction. In construction, I suppose the difference between the world that we live in within GagaMuller and maybe with what Cian has described in Tate is we look at the holistic view and look at more than just digital twin, because the perception of a digital twin in our industry, at the very least, is a 3D model. That's kind of what people think. Digital twin, they think 3D model. That's it.
Okay.
But for it to be a twin, it has to evolve, it has to learn, it has to grow, and to do that, it has to be connected. Cian kind of mentioned being data rich, connected to sensors, connected to devices, but also connected to anything that we typically do within our general workflow within construction. So in construction terminology, I'll give you a very simple visual of how we typically see it operate. We'd come in at a client side role, very, very early days. You got to get in early with this and set the governance and set the standards, something that doesn't really tend to exist in our industry. And you'll see Tate and companies like Tate with Cian using it to their benefit and to improve their efficiencies. So they're going to connect data points that make their workflow better.
Yeah.
But when you're operating at a client level, I own this building at the end. To give you a very simple, I suppose, analogy, we'll take just one piece of equipment in that 3D model. Let's say it was a wall, right? Mm-hmm. A wall installation. How a real digital twin will work and how you'll see the real efficiencies from it is connecting that wall line item to a work breakdown structure and a P6 schedule, and understanding what date that needs to be built, connecting it to Procore or Aconex to identify where that drawing is there builder's works, is there sign-offs, back boxes, grounds, install drawings, what's the status of that drawing, is it at status A, status B, status C, before I go building it. So therefore saving on actually going building something prior to it being signed off. Looking at labour histograms, data of lads on site, looking at turnstile data to see who's in on site, looking at BIM 360 to see if that wall is closed off. I'm rambling, but it gives you an example of all these different touch points that we have. We actually collect this data during the delivery. And I suppose all we're trying to do within a digital twin is connect it all up like wires, like connecting all your wires up from an electric circuit standpoint. And making that give you a visual, Gary, that you can see live, real time, instantly what's going on your portfolio.
Okay, and I'll be disingenuous to a lot of people here, but back in the day, you used to have a thing called a project manager, and it was his job to get all this stuff and try and weave together all the risks, the opportunities, the workflows. Is that effectively, a tool now that an efficient project manager would use as distinct to all this paper coming in at them? I'm trying to understand where and what's different from the design through to the build. And then I'll get back to Cian in a second, where it continues through to when you operate. And it's a loop, right? You're trying to actually create this loop back, because buildings are live, aren't they? They're always evolving. Temperatures are changing. So is effectively that one of the fundamental differences, Paddy, before I go to Cian, that you can create a model in the design stage that transfers through to the build stage, that then transfers to the facilities management people? Is that it in a very basic terminology?
Yeah, it's exactly it in a basic terminology. The problem with it is it's not very basic, because you've got all these different disciplines. They still have to comply to liability and risk, and you still have that legal standpoint that tends to be a barrier when bringing in this process or this new technology. But from a project management standpoint, that's kind of where we stood up within GagaMuller was to go in at a PM role and use the data that's crowdfunded for the most part. If you set the rules at the start and define that regardless of what software you use, you must collect data on this project and you must collect these different parameters. That's all we typically do as a business. We allow the guys on the ground, when an area foreman might sign off a wall closure or builder's works get signed off, or even the commissioning process when something goes from factory witness to SAT to L3, L4, L5, connecting that data so that we can see it in real time. Imagine it on your phone, picture it as a floor plan view of your data center with reds and greens. Green is good, red is bad. And as a PM, I'm going to react to anything that's red. Green, the job is done, so they've done what they're meant to do according to their scope. But if I'm seeing reds and oranges, they're warnings for me to be far better at my job in terms of project managing the delivery of the project.
Okay, that's really interesting. And Cian, then, just again, as a case study in, an exemplar, you mentioned your smart building.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of follow on there from what Paddy was saying, so from Tate, our engineering team get involved very early in projects and put together the Revit families and get the project together. And then our products are quite, specialist, critical products that go into the data halls. And when you look at the products as their own standalone kind of design in a vacuum, they look perfect, but you always want to put them in and kind of, learn, spot any issues early before it comes to reality on site. So you kind of see if there's any clashes anywhere or any issues at all, do the CFD analysis and everything. But then we're seeing more and more that the clients really want, when it comes to handover stage, they want the full kind of BIM model then in the federated model that is their digital twin of the building, I guess, which has, all the product data in it. So the kind of the life cycle of the product, where to get new product, where to replace materials, the limitations of each system, the data sheets and everything, all in there, all the non-graphical data in the file as well that they need.
Can I even suggest that as we move towards reporting on embedded carbons and all the other scope 1s, 2s, and 3s,
huge.
Is this where all that's stored as part of the handover and the reporting and stuff? Either of you able to comment on that?
Sorry, go on, Cian.
Yeah, take it away.
Yeah, just to be honest, Gary, I think I said this at the last talk out in, where were we? City West, or where were we a couple of weeks ago?
The sports arena.
The sports arena was kind of the same thing.
You bought me a lovely coffee. You were very nice.
I did, yeah.
You were very nice. Yeah. That's the only reason you got back here.
I've no digital twin coffee cup to give you today, Gary. Sorry.
I brought me on today.
I think I said pretty much the same thing at that talk. We don't say to the world that we're sustainable, or that we're a sustainability consultancy or anything of the likes, but we are data focused. We help owners and clients build with data. That's kind of the term we typically use. And when you develop an infrastructure and governance and standards using data, it will absolutely have a direct correlation to improving your sustainability of not only your delivery, but also, could be 6 to 10x during OpEx of managing your facilities. And that's proven. There's documents written around that savings, particularly in the facilities management stage.
Yes.
But the systems we supply, Gary, the sustainability consultant on the project would always come to us for all our certs and environmental certs on our products. And they'd kind of tot up the impact then, but nothing stopping you adding that information into this model then that you're handing over to the client, having it all in there.
And when I visit your innovation center then in Cavan, and I'm seeing it, all your bits and bobs and doofers and widgets all working correctly, is the idea to sit down with a client to imagineer what their building will look like with graphics and outputs and reds and greens, and then work your way back?
Yeah, we're kind of working towards it, with Tate. So to kind of give you an example, going back to the innovation center, like it's full of active products from other parts of Kingspan Group. So you got active like air vents and active windows and things like that. So if the sensors pick up that the room has gone over 600 CO2 parts per million, it's known that then, you know, productivity goes down in the office. So the windows open and the ventilation goes in, you know. And I've actually heard it before from people who work there that they think the building knows when they're hungover.
The windows are opening and closing like Billio.
Yeah, but so yeah, like it's the active products as well. So from us from Tate, we're kind of working towards how we can, you know, currently all our systems are passive. Really, we used to have some airflow grills that were in the floor that would activate when there was heavier demand in the cabinets, but yeah, we kind of discontinued those. They weren't very popular and they were very expensive at the time. But those kind of things we might go back to. So.
But and again, I'll open it up to both of you. But until everybody uses the same form factor as Lego, it's hard to have anything that's meaningful. The reason that Lego is so successful is all the bits, no matter when you buy them, fit.
Yeah,
it's got 4, 5, 6 little holes, and they, you know. So, you know, Paddy, you're sort of dealing with multiple vendors, with multiple professional services, and they all probably have a green, blue, yellow, and black version of this. Are we at the stage where standards are still difficult to agree upon to be able to feed it all in?
Yeah, like, look, there is standards out there. There's ISOs to follow. I think it's not the biggest barrier. If I'm honest to all this, it's a complete cultural mind change is what needs to happen, because the standards will sort themselves as we do that. Like, again, to give you a very high level analogies or put this into layman's terms, and maybe answering the question you asked just before this, was it has to be led from the top. I think market validation on our side, you look at us as a business in 5 years, we started initially working with contractors because that was probably where we had come from. But what we found was we were getting in too late if we're in with the contractors. You know, if I'm coming in and saying, listen, you got to use this application, you got to collect data this way, we're going to need to work with these processes, immediately it's met with oh, that's going to cost extra. That cost goes back up to the client, and the client's typically going to go, I don't need it, I'm not spending that much money on something that we've already started the process on. So we very quickly moved to client side for that reason. And I think you need to, because it's data, it's just unfortunate. You have to start at the top. So you have to operate at the operator level or client level. You have to set the rules of engagement and governance and standards, and push that through either a project execution plan or some sort of scope prior to tender, so that it's priced and everyone that's pricing it is aware of it. And I think the real market validation for us over the last 5 years is, as we've moved up towards the client, what we're now noticing is there's even funders and insurance companies very, very interested in the reports and the analytics that we're providing, because it's completely de-risking their projects. Exactly. So it's funny to see.
Well, I think like even this session that we're having here for the people that are listening, it's to agree what we mean when we say what we say. Often you do this dance around acronyms, and you do this dance around the newest terminologies, which is only reflecting a new. To your point, and I want to come back to it slightly, you mentioned BIM, both of you, quite a lot. And you, Paddy, particularly said BIM as a 3-letter business information management, is it? Has a bad rep. So, I mean, it was at a certain time the panacea of all ills also. So I want to lead into sort of, do you see the same pitfalls going to hit on digital twins and the failure points, and have we learned anything from BIM not to do going forward? And I'd like to ask both of you that, like, what are the challenges in your opinion to effectively move a project on with digital twin at the middle?
Yeah, I'll go first there on that, and he can maybe give his perspective maybe from Tate. But for us, looking over all the supply chain and different stakeholders in a business, I think we're going to. I'm not saying we haven't learned anything from BIM. Of course, we have. I've a bloody master's in it, so I hope there's some value in it. But it's because we keep talking about it in a silo, and there's typically only specialists and people who know what BIM is to kind of have a community and work there. Like, if you go onto any project, 9 out of 10 projects, BIM is done in the corner and it's not connected to any other traditional vertical within construction. So it's not connected properly, whether people might say they do or don't, they don't for the most part, to schedule and to cost reports and budgets and estimates. It's not connected at all. They're completely different teams that don't typically talk. And I think we will potentially see the same thing in this new trend of digital twins if we don't set the rules of engagement and contracts and scopes correctly from the outset. So, and unfortunately, that means that owners, clients, at the very beginning have to define what they want. And there needs to be someone there who understands what that is, both from a construction delivery point of view, an FM point of view, but also from data and technology point of view. Some of these, they actually need to get what IT and data is and the power of it. Because we're completely ignorant to it right now in this industry.
I think what you're saying as well is, and other industries have found, that people love loads of data, but actually data is useless unless it's giving you insights.
Yeah.
And everybody got really hot and bothered and excited about the term big data in the last decade, thinking the more data they had, the better they were. And actually now they find it's an encumbrance from GDPR and all sorts of reasons. It's the insights, right? Or the outputs from the data. Cian, so what's your view on it?
Yeah, so at the moment, like our clients are quite strict really about the models that we hand over, and they want the as-built point scans and all to be very, very accurate to the actual physical systems that have been installed. But when it comes to the sensors and kind of picking up all that data, we don't see so much of that we could be offering yet. But I think I reckon that'll be pushed more by the BMS side of things. Like it'll be the facility management teams within the clients that'll be driving that. Would you say, Paddy? And it'll might just need to join the dots really of linking that back to us on the construction end.
Because there is an interesting thing that Paddy said earlier, and it was very interesting that you mentioned the owner of Formula One cars having examples. Isn't that all what you've just said previously? The ownership of the project starts with the very top. We want to win races. So they know very clearly what success looks like.
Yeah,
they own the engineers that design the engine. They may outsource the manufacture of a widget doofer or a wheel, but they're nearly sending out the knowing exactly how it weaves together. Would that be what's missing at the moment? Whereas if we were to turn that around to your industry at the moment, there's lots of people making wheels, suspension, all the other bits and bobs, and then presenting it to the owner. It's not coming down. That's what we want. Is that a decent analogy to talk about a bit?
Yeah, I think it's to their benefit to win a race, isn't it? You know, like it's the
they know exactly.
Analogy.
They own the digital twin. Everybody else is an input to that.
Exactly. Yeah. But the rules are set. You know what I mean? The KPIs are set. They know what the end goal here is. It's to win a race. So everyone is aiming for that end goal. Our end goal is to build, depending on what you are. If you're a colo developer, let's say, your end goal is to flip a building. So like, you know, you're just going to develop it. You're going to put some sort of analytics to maybe to get you through the construction phase. But do you care what happens in the facilities management? That's the difference. There's so many different contract types.
And that's the interesting part about it. From my own even career, facilities, IT, and all these other people that hand over people, they have their own silos. So you might build or design a great building, but the builder will say, I can't do it. And then the operators say, yeah, that's great, but it's too expensive to operate. You know, it's to try and bring that all early on with this. And that's what this digital twin, I think, can do, is you can play around with parameters, permutations, combinations. If we do, is that like what Cian is saying about the smart building, Cian? You can say, if you use these sensors on that particular floor, you can say...
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it saves you money by extending the life of your equipment. You know, if you're managing your airflow and it's good quality in and you're not overpowering anything. You know, if you're managing all of the parameters of the building, you get more life out of the servers.
We have a question in from Ali. I'll bring it up. How will digital twins affect the short and long-term equipment suppliers market in the long run? You've sort of answered that slightly from a maker of widgets and doofers, Cian, have you? That slightly?
I don't know if we don't make servers though.
No, but equipment and supplies here is a generic
I suppose
term.
I can only ask from what I know really is like we supply hot oil containment systems, which in layman's terms boil down to partition systems that are keeping the hot and cold air separate in the data hall. So the cold air has been pumped into the servers and you're channeling the hot air out through the hot oil containment systems. And if you were managing it all, accurately, you're measuring the efficiency of the airflow there, and you're managing your leakage rates and your duct systems, and it's about just improving efficiency constantly.
But one would
sorry, Gary, but even on the supplier side market, like if you even look at other industries again, like maybe consumer goods that come completely out of construction, look how they manage their supply chain, look how they manage their logistics, and I can probably guarantee that they do very much the same, where they'll manage their products, even though it's not a 3D model. Potentially a digital twin can also be a system, and managing that supply of products from inception to factory to distribution center to site, that can be perceived as a digital twin also, so that like it's using that data can improve potentially Tate's bottom line in sales.
But you'd also like to suggest for the usefulness of something like that I can tweak up or tweak down, or I can change parameters, to your point there. Let's say one of the colo or the hyperscales or whatever decides that they can now tolerate 28 to 32 degrees. Well, what effect does that have on your cold oil? You don't want to have to find that out when they decide their servers are going to, I'm sure you'd like to think that the questions asked early, what if we do that? And you don't have to build it to find out. You can digital formulate it. Is that sort of the ultimate, same way as the Formula One car? I'm sure they can say, well, what if the wheel runs at 270 miles an hour? Will it fall off? Is that where we're leading to?
So just simulating lots of different scenarios, like
that's the question. And Paddy, is that sort of what one can do? Assimilate what ifs. Scenario-based
analytics, exactly the same. If you take the Formula One analogy, it's that's what they do. The lad in the background and on the earpiece to Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, like he or she is in the background doing analytics on if it rains, what tires do I need to change. And put that the same in construction. Like, and again, I could take any vertical in construction, but just take the delivery phase. Like take a schedule. If you standardize your work breakdown structure of a schedule, and you standardize codes for cost reports, and you're building data centers, which essentially are the same thing over and over again, not to be too simple terms of what a data center is. But if you're building the same thing over and over, and like the only difference might be local regulations and laws, then you're going to learn from your past mistakes. So if you standardize a schedule, let's call that data. If you standardize that schedule of that digital twin, then theoretically, on the next time I go build it, it should say, hey, listen, you tried to do this the last time and it caused this delay, and you only added this many resources, when in fact, technically it takes this many resources. That predictive analytics it's there already. We could actually start doing it if we started understanding what data was and start actually standardizing across our entire portfolio.
And you can have the bun fight, Paddy, with the clients as to who owns the intellectual property rights of that data to be used. That's when the fun begins, right? Is the learnings. But we've a couple of minutes left, right? 2 minutes left. So I'll just ask, in 3 years' time, which isn't that long, what would you like to be seeing digital twins, or who's using them, and what do we need to do to make sure that they realize their potential? I'll start with you, Paddy.
Yeah. Look, I don't think we'll get there in 3 years. First of all, it'll definitely be a slow burner. I think the companies and the organizations that will lead the charge are going to be the ones that are agile and able to move quicker than some of the bigger organizations that are out there. It has to be led from the top. It just has to be. I think the governance and the standards and documentation out there to align to some ISO standards, especially around information management and data privacy and GDPR and all the rest, they're kind of there. So I think we just need to set the rules early days in scopes, pre-tender, working a bit more with commercial teams to get that understanding of what data actually is and how we can utilize it. I think if we actually looked under the hood, and we see this all the time, our data is wide open. It's wide open right now. We're ignorant to the fact of security in a lot of cases. So I think that will get locked down over the next couple of years for sure as we get a bit more mature.
Okay. But what are you saying?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just following off Paddy. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the standards, I suppose, being utilized or being communicated more. But the main thing I'd like to see is kind of going back to what you said earlier, Gary, as well, about sustainability. Like all our systems in the next couple of months now will have environmental product declaration documents on them, and once we have that, we'll have the benchmark, and we just constantly improve then on each of the systems, and that'd be great if you could plug that into something in these digital twins and have it managed then live. And then if you could, every time you update it, you're updating your project, updating your twin.
Yeah, I think we might have created more questions than given answers, but that's okay. That's okay at this stage where we're just trying to inform people that maybe if they're working with a BIM, it could be actually a digital twin. They just don't know it. Or if they're using models, it could be a digital twin. And we hope that what this show does is it basically defunks some of the bullshit that goes out with terminology and stuff. And I certainly think both of you were very frank and honest. So with that, I'd say thank you, Paddy. Thank you, Cian.
No problem, Gary.
And Carla, thank you so much, as always, for doing the magic in the background. And with that, I'll close off this episode of Bits, Bytes and Banter. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.